Good day, my name is Colleen Valiente of Litepop BGE01, and this is my Pecha Kucha regarding the novel and the movie called The Great Gatsby. So mainly I watched the movie mostly, but a long time ago I already read the novel, so I kind of have some understanding about it. Here's an outline of topics that I will be discussing. So first we'll be discussing the 1920s fashion of both men and women, and then the iconic hairstyles during that era, and then the cars that were used, and then the criminal celebrities, and the dance marathons, then jazz. So throughout the entire movie, you can see both Jordan and Daisy wearing these stunning, iconic 1920s flapper dresses down to their evening gowns, the one with the big fur on their shoulders. And you can also see that they also adorn these Art Deco kind of jewelry that is adorned on their hands. And popular designers such as Coco Chanel made these designs and outfits very popular during the 1920s. Thus, many of the youth wanted to wear these outfits, as many wanted to go partying and go dancing, as many wanted to forget the war and what it cost. Now on for the men's wear. As you can see that during the 1920s, more of the styles have grown classier. You can see that throughout the movie that Gatsby is always wearing his classy suit whenever he is outside or even meeting guests during his parties or even just at home. After World War I, men had come home to find most of their closets full of outdated outfits. So during this era, many men started to become more fashion conscious. So as you can see, many men started wearing more suits and being more well dressed compared to the previous. We're going to talk about the hairstyles of the women. As you can see, mainly all the women or most of the women in the entire movie had very short hair, which is called the bob at that time in the 1920s. It goes mostly well with the cloche kind of hat, as you can see Jordan is wearing in this picture above. This popular hairstyle began by a dancer named Irene Castle, and she started wearing this around the beginning of World War I. Thus, the bob hairstyle has remained in fashion since the 1920s. Even today, you can see some celebrities still wearing this kind of hairstyle out in public, and it's still very popular. Throughout the entire movie, you can see that all three men, Nick, Gatsby, and Tom, have all similar hairstyles. All their hairstyles is the same kind of sleeked back kind of hair that is very fixed and very classy, and that is never strayed throughout the entire film. As I mentioned earlier, after the World War I, more men wanted to become classier looking, so they adorned this sort of hairstyle that made their hair more sleeked back looking. So as you can see that all men throughout the entire movie in the 1920s had this kind of hair. Another thing that was very popular during the 1920s were the automobiles. So as you can see, this kind of automobile was very prevalent in the movie and is very true to the 1920s style of cars. Gatsby loved his car very much and usually drove it around with Daisy and his friend Nick. During this era, it was the first time that regular people were able to own their very own cars, which meant that they could go wherever they wanted when they wanted. Thus, this automobile played heavily into the 1920s pop culture because it granted people a sense of independence, both figuratively and literally. So now we're going to talk about the criminal celebrities such as Jay Gatsby himself in the movie and novel. It is later discovered towards the end of the novel that Jay Gatsby is rich or wealthy mainly because of his bootlegging scheme and is selling illegal booze. Prohibition was signed into law in 1990 and then took effect in 1920. It gave a new rise to a new culture of criminal businessmen, such as Jay Gatsby himself, such as bootleggers and gangster crime bosses who easily used their influence to dominate cities and systems within the government. The young man Jay Gatsby knew what was very popular among youth these days, and which was partying and dancing a lot. So every often he would throw these large parties where people would dance until early morning and pass out. And the book did a very good job in portraying this lifestyle. Especially after the horrors of World War I, it is easy to see why the 1920s became an era of youthfulness and freedom, that everyone just wanted to forget the horrors of the past. So many people resorted to feeling youthful by partying and dancing through these large parties. What's a 1920s party without its jazz music? So of course Fitzgerald has made references to jazz songs throughout the novel, not just in the parties but through the plot, such as The Sheik of Araby, which is mentioned to highlight Gatsby's obsessive love towards Daisy. Jazz is the music that shaped and defined this era, hence it's called the Jazz Age, and will be forever linked to the 1920s. This type of music not only resonated with the youth but people of all ages, and was heard playing not only at parties but at home as well. The ending of Great Gatsby isn't as hopeful as you want it to be. There are people who are careless and run away from their problems, and those who are left to pick up the pieces, and some unlucky, those who have to suffer the consequences of it forever. This is what Great Gatsby teaches us: corruption. Yes, life may be wonderful and exciting, but we must remind ourselves that not everything that is wonderful is good. There is corruption that feeds off our kindness and takes over, so we must be wary before it's too late.